she's short, very muscular, has her sleeves roll all the way up, very pale skin, but like engine grease and dirt is all over her, and she's chomping on a Cuban cigar. She says, "I'm Masha Kateva. Who the fuck are you?" Wait! Scratch that. I've seen your type come and go, Sergeant. You'll be down in fucking flames in a fortnight, and I am not going to get to know you. What do you want? And let me make it perfectly clear to all of you skinny bitches. I am not your mother, and I don't have any boots or fucking field rations, so go choke on yourself. Well,
That's
Sergeant,
all right.
what are you here for?
We were told to report here, sir.
Alright, well let me tell you what we've got, and you can fucking pick from them, alright? We've got some nice used men's uniforms that won't fit. We've got a goddamn airplane in the packing crate and no time to assemble it. We've got fucking endless shovels for no reason. Anything else you ask me for and I will shit on your mother. You need one of those things? Huh? You want a shovel, Sergeant?
I suppose it could be useful.
She picks up a shovel and throws it at you. She says, "Okay, you need another shovel, Sergeant?"
I suppose one will be enough. Thank you.
Oh, well, before I find you Sukas some nice lady boots, I think I'll acquire on some Chevstov M11 engines and all that shit before it breaks on one of those fuckers. You know, cylinders, heads, gaskets, pumps, Jesus and his whoremonger apostles, gauges, canvas dope, control wire surfaces, wheels, struts, bomb releases. I could fucking go on, sister. I don't have time for this shit, and some sergeant who just is wet off the ferry looking for a fucking shovel.
Thank you.
Her jaw drops open and the cigar just falls out. The whole mechanics bay is quiet now. Everyone stops working. She just says, "You better go see Senior Lieutenant Petrova. As for her on the 588's barracks, you just keep walking until you see the shittiest place no decent woman in her right mind would call home. Don't worry, you'll fit right in there, Sergeant."
Sounds like it. Excellent. Thank you very much.
I thought I was drunk.
You take your new uniforms and head for the barracks.
Yeah.
During some catcalls from leather jacket-clad male pilots along the ways. When you arrive, a woman no older than any of us greets you. She shows each of you a cot and tells you to put on your new uniform. Now, normally, in the intro, this is where we would talk about roles and stats, but we've already done that. Senior Lieutenant Petrova walks over to Sergeant Sokolov and says, "Sergeant, I'm Senior Lieutenant Petrova. What's your name? Where are you from?"
So my name is Sasha Sokolov. I'm from, where the fuck did I say I was, Arthur? Leningrad.
Marion, yes. Clearly drunk.
Senior Lieutenant Petrova looks at you and says, "You're not sure where you're from, but you might be from Leningrad?"
Look, it was a long train ride.
Sergeant, are you drunk?
I was.
We'll be dividing you into pilots and navigators based on your aptitude. But you'll have to be qualified for both and either seat. Pilots in the front, navigators in the back. These aircraft are simple. Fuel and oil are gravity-fed, so just don't fly upside down, Sergeant. It's an air-cool engine, no oil filter, just a mesh screen. Open cockpit. Have any questions?
Yes, do you have any spare belts?
He raises an eyebrow and says, "Many things can go wrong. Flying at night is strange and challenging. Rather than looking for belts, you should probably memorize your cockpit layout. Down and to your left, throttle, fuel lever." She starts going on and on and on. And then she ends and says, "Now, I reviewed your file before you arrived here, Sergeant. You're a mixed bag, aren't you?"
Somewhat.
So she starts walking up and down the line while all three of you are at attention, and she says, "Sergeant Zerkova,
Yes.
whose funeral did you miss by volunteering for flight training?"
Well, I didn't exactly miss it, but my father has died recently.
You missed your father's funeral to join the Soviet Air Army?
No, it happened after I joined. There was no time. They would not let me go. I understand.
Sergeant Sokolov,
Yes.
who do you routinely see from your brother unit, the well-equipped all-male 218th Night Bombers? Where and why?
I like raise an eyebrow at her, and I'm just like, why would you assume I see anyone? And I smirk at her when I say that.
Okay, so your answer is that you don't?
Oh, well, no, it's implied that I do, but I don't say who it is.
Okay, all right. So you do see someone, but you aren't telling.
Or
Yes.
aren't sure who.
Oh, shit.
Different
I-
person every night.
I don't
We
remember
find a
his
good one to
face, to
ask
be honest.
Tatiana in order to haze her for that shit. So she stands very tall in front of Sergeant Petrovna, looks down her nose at her and says, Sergeant Petrovna, what did you lie about on your regimental intake form? And
Lie
she
about.
smiles.
I did not lie about anything. My mother taught me never to lie. Always tell the truth.
You're sure, Sergeant, you lied about nothing on your form?
I would not lie on an application form to serve in glorious Red Army.
She frowns and says, of course, Sergeant. Senior Lieutenant Petrova, satisfied with your answers, tells you that the Major is waiting on the flight line, and you file out to meet her.
Mm-hmm.
The regiment's PO2s are in formation on the flight line, each fragile craft lovingly tended to by a pair of mechanic armorers. Senior Lieutenant Petrova forms you into rough order, and salutes a stern older woman with shoulder boards, the Major. Next to her is Captain Lobodeva, who you met on the ferry, her chief of staff, along with several other officers. The Major looks you over. Comrades, welcome to the regiment. I am Major Yevdokha Bereshenka, your commander. My call sign is the Bear. I expect you to comport yourselves at all times as natural-born Soviet airwomen. Who will fly these? He points to the biplanes behind her. The Polokarapov PO2 LMB. A simple two-seat canvas and wood biplane that has been determined to be ideal for our mission by the great operational minds behind the 4th Air Army Air Force. And we are certainly not going to doubt their wisdom in this matter. Let's talk about that mission, shall we? Sergeant Zerkova. What's your name?
Yes. Ilyana Zerkova, Major.
Did you train with the Cosmonaut, Flying Club, or a glider school, or were you part of an agricultural technical academy?
Well, I trained with a flying school. My father had some connections, and I was studying to fly, but well before the war.
So she makes eye contact with Sergeant Petrovna and then nods towards the planes and says, there are 3 places you can put a bullet that will break the PO2. The fuel tank, the compact engine, or the pilot. Anything else will just pass through and keep flying, and honestly, the pilot doesn't count because you have a spare. Do you have any thoughts on this, Sergeant? Sergeant Petrovna, are you paying attention?
Yes, sorry. It's like, yes, the engine can be patched with a little handiwork. The fuel line can be repaired in air if you are willing to be a little dangerous. The pilot, however, is most unfortunate. I do not wish to be shot.
She raises an eyebrow and says, interesting. You know your PO2. I'll remember that. She moves to stand in front of Sergeant Sokolov and says, there's no radio in the PO2s. Individual air crews communicate with hand signals or by using a speaking tube. The communication between planes in the same section is by flashlight, flare, or hand signal. We work together so closely night after night that you will be able to read another plane's intention by instinct. How's your night vision, Sergeant?
It's pretty
Uh,
good. Though I think
Can you-
the nail polish on my nails will actually make it easier for other people to see me.
So, a couple of lower ranked, obviously not a non-commissioned officer like yourself, but a few privates make some sort of scoffing noise at that, and someone clicks their heels and says something like attention. The major turns away from you and says, "The PO2 is not a fighter but a bomber. Each wing has 6 attachment points of FAB-50 fragmentation bombs. The release magnetism for their bombs is unreliable. In the event of hamming bomb, navigators will need to climb out onto the wing and release it manually. When the Fab 50s aren't available, we drop sawed-off railroad ties. Since our mission profiles rarely have us flying above 1,200 meters and weight is a premium, parachutes are not standard equipment. Formation drill is at 1700. I expect you to be crisp. It is now my pleasure to administer the oath of a Soviet soldier and induct you into the Red Air Army Air 4th Air Force." And that was long. Raise your right hand, players, and repeat after me. I, your name,
I, Ilyana.
Sergeant
Sasha.
Tatiana Petrovna.
promise to rise to the defense of the motherland.
Promise to
Promise
rise
to
to
rise
the defense of the
The
motherland.
defense of the motherland.
Wow, we got a little bit to work on here. All right, I'm sure we'll work it out by the end. The Union of the Soviet Socialist Republics,
The Union,
The
The Union of the Soviet Socialist Republic.
Republic.
as a
Republics.
fighting man of the Worker and Peasants Red Army,
As a
As
fighting,
a fighting man of the Workers' Red Army and Republic.
It's hard to say it when I can hear it.
It's too
I
much
a
promise
fighting
to
man of
defend
the
it
world.
bravely,
And
I
promise
promise to defend it
bravely.
bravely.
skillfully,
Skillfully.
with dignity and honor,
With
honor.
dignity and honor.
sparing neither my blood nor my life,
Sparing
Sparing
neither
neither
my
my
blood
blood
nor
nor
my life.
More my life.
Good.
for the achievement of total victory over our enemies.
For the achievement of total victory over
our
right.
al-
I'm trying to keep up with you
Did
guys.
you just
but-
say allies?
Well, they're gonna be our enemies afterwards, so
Are you serious? You guys are literally the worst oath takers ever.
It's super hard
There
to
are
do. It's a delay.
kindergartners who are better at this stuff.
I'm also drunk. No.
Okay, all right. Amazing, so good. All right,
Tatiana doesn't like public speaking.
Major Bereshchenko dismisses you, and Captain Lodova congratulates you, pointing your way to the mess tent so you can finally get some chow after a busy morning. She tells you classroom instruction begins tomorrow at dusk. Classroom F. The following morning, you find yourselves in a crowded tent configured as a classroom. The pungent stench of aviation gasoline permeates everything, and the roaring of aircraft occasionally interrupts a lesson because that airstrip is so close to the classroom, right?
Whose
Our
idea
first-
was that? Purple.
Our first class is on political consciousness, and is conducted by 2 women with gray tunics of NKVD officers. The NKVD is Soviet secret police, and her officers are not to be trifled with. 2 are attached to every regiment. "Good morning, trainees," says the ranking officer. "I am Captain Olga I. Bersukov, and this is my deputy, Lieutenant Svetlana Sheremeteva. Our job is to encourage your continued development as politically conscious and socially engaged communists. But we must never forget that we are also military officers with security responsibilities within the regiment." Captain Beresukov stands in front of Sergeant Zerkova and says, "What's your name, comrade?"
My name is Comrade Ilyana Zerkova, sir.
"What's your rank?
My rank is sergeant, sir.
Where are you from?"
Moscow, sir.
"Would you say that the enemies of the people, bourgeoisie of course, but also aristocrats, religious, social parasites, eggheads, and nationalists, are these dangerous elements any less of a threat than the fascists?"
It depends. They are dangerous threats, but currently do not have a gun to our heads.
She shakes her head and says, "We are all here to protect the regiment. But think carefully about helping your friends, comrade. Military personnel who fail to report treason are themselves subject to 10 years imprisonment. When I find the counter-revolutionary, I will arrest her, Sergeant.
I would
If I
never
find
dream
someone-
of anything like that, sir.
He says, if I find someone undermining or weakening the external security of the USSR by means of slacking or wrecking or parasitism or aiding the enemy, that is treason, my friend. Section 58-1B states that treason by military personnel incurs immediate death sentence. Should the offender run away, the same statute applies to the imprisonment of her relatives for 5 to 10 years. You don't want your relatives to be imprisoned, do you, Sergeant?
Of course not.
So you admit to being a filthy bourgeoisie.
No? You just asked me if I wanted my relatives to be imprisoned. Of course nobody wants their relatives to be imprisoned.
So she looks over at her deputy, Lieutenant Svetlana Sheremeteva, and kind of nods, and Lieutenant Sheremeteva starts writing things down on a pad of paper. Listen, I want you to have success here, so I will warn you about Section 58-14, which deals with counter-revolutionary sabotage. Conscious non-execution or deliberately careless execution of defined duties aimed at the weakening of the power of the government and of the functioning of the state apparatus is subject to at least 1 year of imprisonment under especially aggravating circumstances. The highest measure of social protection, execution with confiscation of property. I burn for the opportunity to hang a saboteur. She gets real close in your face and says, I hope we understand each other, Sergeant.
I could not think of why we would not. We are on the same page, sir.
Of course. Sergeant, why does the NKVD already have a file on you? And how did you get around that black mark to join this particular glorious regiment?
Sir, the things that my father did are not my sins to bear. He was a traitor, and he has died.
I see.
I do not share his views.
And how is it you came to join this regiment?
I was assigned to it. I simply signed up wishing to fight to prove that I was not as my father, and I suppose circumstance led me here. I made no special requests, only that I wished to serve my country and to prove that I was not a traitor. But I had some knowledge of flying, so I guess that is why this regiment was chosen for me.
All right. She nods to Lieutenant Svetlana, and she continues to make some notes. Sergeant Petrovna,
Sir.
what did the Germans take from you?
These Germans, they took from me my father. Many years ago, yes, but they robbed me of the opportunity to have a father in my home.
It's very sad, Sergeant. I expect I can rely on you to be an excellent officer.
I will do my duty.
Lieutenant Sokolov, Sergeant Sokolov,
Yeah, sirs?
what happened the last time a crowd of brother airmen wolf whistled at you?
I smile. That's about it.
After handing out some inspirational literature on science, Captain Barasukov dismisses you. You have 30 minutes to wolf down some kashka before classroom instruction and land navigation with Senior Lieutenant Petrovna. After a week of monotonous classroom instruction under the tutelage of Captain Barasukova and Senior Lieutenant Petrovna, you are formed into a 3-aircraft section as part of your training squadron. Each section has 3 pilots and navigators. Who volunteered first among the 3 of you?
As navigator?
No, as this is for seniority. Who commands
Ooh.
this unit? None of you are lieutenants, so we need to
I'll
figure out
raise
who
my
was
hand.
commissioned first.
I'll raise mine.
Sure, go ahead. You can take it.
We're making
I
the
don't care that
misanthrope the
much.
leader.
Yep.
Is that what I'm hearing?
Apparently, sure. You can take it.
Okay, so training section leader is. Oops.
I vote for Thor's character.
Oh. Well, that's different.
Well,
Is that,
story.
I don't know if it's actually
Don't
a
you
vote or
trust
not.
me?
Not
I'm
at
a
all.
great leader.
Well, story-wise, I would have volunteered very early, as my father has been executed for being an traitorous aristocrat.
Well, that's fine then. You can take it. It's not a big deal. I was simply
And-
doing it because no one was doing it, so like, fuck it.
Okay.
All right.
That's
So, Sergeant Zerkova, are you our training section leader?
Guess.
Sounds
Guess so.
Not that anything bad will happen.
Of course not. What could possibly go wrong?
Sergeant
It's only World
Zerkova,
War II.
congratulations. You are provisional section leader and responsible for deportment and proficiency of the 5 women under your command. Give everyone a post, pilot, or navigator, and assign them to individual planes. Your reserve plane is a beat-up reserve of dubious airworthiness. So, now, this is where you start preparing to play Highway to the Danger Zone. We're going to move to the air combat map.
Oh, dang.
So, you don't need a mechanic or a squadron commander yet. Your lead aircraft will be assigned by your section leader.
Wait,
So-
this is where we start. We weren't supposed to have it on repeat since because I've just had it on repeat.
Okay,
since...
all right, yeah, no, that's fine. So you'll need to assign a pilot and a navigator and a tail number to each of these. So you will pick the pilot and the navigator, Sergeant Zerkova, and then the pilot will pick the tail number of the aircraft.
Okay.
You're also going to have to make up 3 NPCs together, so I suggest each of you make up the name of someone who is joining your unit.
That sounds good. How do we want to do this? Do we want to be each on one plane with an NPC, or
Fuck no. Are you kidding me? I want to crash and burn with someone else.
Just remember, Sergeant Zerkova, you have the final call on anything.
No.
You are the section leader.
Well, I feel like we should just not weigh in on this. I feel like this is all your decision.
no, this is a leadership decision.
You
Like,
can
yeah.
consult
All right.
with your sergeants. It might be
Nope, I'm
wise.
smoking a cigar in the back. I'm not
I'm going to
talking.
look over at the other 2 people and see. Okay, Tatiana knows a lot about planes. Sasha showed up drunk. Tatiana, you're with me on the lead aircraft.
Pilot or navigator?
As my navigator, I'll be the pilot.
eager to do my duty.
Excellent.
Okay. Ileana, what is the tail number of your aircraft?
1.
Pick anything between. You can pick any number between 1 and 200.
147.
Okay.
I hope that's not the number of planes that we've gone through to get this particular leading aircraft.
And are the 2 of you performing as the lead aircraft? Or you're just taking an aircraft? The lead aircraft is the one that does the flying in.
Yeah. So
Gets shot at.
Well, yes and
No,
no.
it's the one that does the wayfinding.
Well, wayfinding and the attack run, I thought.
Not necessarily, but yes, that could be it.
Okay.
Okay. Well, that was the plan, anywho.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. Then we'll stick the drunk with some NPC on plane number 2.
Is the drunk going to be the pilot or the navigator? Or actually, does it matter for the support aircraft?
It does, because they
Does.
have to pick what they're doing, right? If you put them as the pilot, they're going to have to make that piloting role. If you put them as navigator,
I have
more importantly, you have to successfully complete one spot in each of the roles before you move forward.
Yep. And I have no idea what she's good at because we just kind of started. And I'm like, excellent. Look her over. Do I want her piloting or navigating? Do I want them getting lost or crashing? I suppose getting lost is better.
I don't know about that, but okay. You can get lost in a terrible, terrible way when you're flying towards enemy lines.
I suppose that's true. Let's just take care of this talking while Sasha
Fair
cannot
enough.
hear. Yes, okay. Let's see let's test her metal. Sasha should be can pilot the second plane, and we'll need somebody very, very sober with her to make certain everything goes right.
Okay.
So
Sasha,
you're putting the person who has the least amount of guts as a pilot.
you're
Good
gonna
job.
have to do it eventually.
Yeah.
Pick your tail number there, pilot.
I
Uh,
have no idea what you're good at, so I'm just guessing here.
we will have 22, and the nickname will be
22.
the double duck.
I don't think you have to take the nickname as part of a move.
Oh yeah, no,
Yep.
that's right. Yeah,
Yep.
you're right about
Don't
that.
get a nickname yet. What's the navigator's name?
Let's see. Let me just think about
what
that
about-
while
how-
I Google Russian names.
I've been doing like name research very, very quickly.
What
I'm
about
gonna
Oksana Boykova? I'll spell it for you.
Okay.
It's literally in the book here. So.
You can
Okay.
just put it in the navigator spot with using text.
Mm,
And then each of you can. So I think if Dave is going to name the navigator, I think Tyler and Thor should figure out what the third plane's pilot and navigator are, and then just put it in there yourselves.
I don't even know how to say this last name. I just found it. So Tamara
Moryakovna?
Moryakovna. Tamara Moryakovna.
Yeah, put that in a pilot or navigator spot on the last plane.
All right. We'll make her the navigator.
And the last plane's tail number is 187. All right, officer. It is your duty to brief your sergeants on your mission tonight. You're doing mission A. Now, normally, I'm going to open this up so that the audience can see it. Normally, you would have your choice as to which mission you're doing, but because we're still in the tutorial, you have to do them in order.
Okay.
So you get to tell your players whatever you want about the mission. Mission A.
Everything
And-
will be fine.
Great pep talk. Tatiana rolls her eyes.
Begin your briefing, Sergeant.
I wish I was drunk.
Let me actually read the mission before I give you a pep talk. Because I haven't read this mission. Let's see. What are we doing? All right.
I'd like to imagine that you're literally saying all of this in front of your squadron, like literally picking up the piece of paper for the first time.
I just realized I cannot read.
Ilyana is 16, by the way. Just putting that out there.
Really? So how old? Let's actually, we didn't do age. So how old is Tatiana?
Tatiana will go with 19.
All right, I'm sitting at the ripe old age of 23 here. So
Yes.
Mission A.
Let's see. We are going to fly out of the Engles field. Wow. Man, this is small. Arthur, do you happen to have this in bigger text?
It is in the main rulebook.
Okay,
Here.
I'll find it.
Oh, yeah, that's in roll 20 and a wall of text. Sorry.
It's on page 104 in the rulebook.
104.
For those of you following at home who bought the rulebook, or have paused the video and are currently buying it right now, that's bullypulpitgames.com.
wait, what page is it? 104.
Yep.
I think I've linked the right mission in roll 20 chat if you just want to read it there.
You did.
Okay.
Hey.
But you shouldn't be reading that.
Oh, I'm
Because
sorry.
Your briefing officer should be telling you.
I was
this is
trying to
going
be
on.
helpful.
Yeah, no, it is
Tatiana was
helpful,
trying to be helpful to our squadron commander.
You have an officer who's supposed to be briefing you.
That's true. It has been an uncomfortable silence.